Good evening and welcome to One Hub Racing. This is season 19 and round 9 of the championship, which takes us to Austin at the Circuit of the Americas for the penultimate round of the championship. We thought it was going to be decided here tonight, or potentially decided, but with the championship leader not around tonight, that is Josh Wilkins, his gap could all of a sudden close right back up. And I've just seen that we had a network error as well, so we'll make sure we go back into a new lobby once I do receive an invite for that. Owen Wyatt is alongside me, which we'll hear from him in a moment once we do sort out the problems with the chat. So just waiting on a new invite to be sent out to me. So you have just joined us. We do apologise for the technical difficulties. And so I am back in the party with Owen himself. Owen, how are you tonight, sir?
Yes, welcome back, Tom. And hello to all the viewers.
Hello, and we seem to have connection issues straight away, which is not the most convenient time and a bit of a weird way to introduce a broadcast, but at least we're in anyway before the session does begin. We're just saying to the audience as well, though, in that we thought the championship leader would be around tonight with an opportunity to wrap up the Drivers' Championship for the prospect here, but that is sadly not going to be the case because he's not around.
Yeah, that's right. Josh, who has won 4 races this season and looked like he had a real shot at taking the title tonight here at COTA, will not be here. And it explains what he was saying just a couple of weeks ago in a few interviews where he says that he needed a Ferrari to make one more big. Because we were saying he was only a couple of points off the lead. Why would he need that? But this is why. I'm imagining he probably knew this was coming. He was missing a race. He needed a points gap. He's got that points gap. But it does mean tonight that if we see Fozzie Bear winning the race, he would lead the championship by just a point, going into Imola in a couple of weeks' time. And it would mean that we could be set up for a classic championship finish. So Josh not being here maybe isn't the worst thing in the world from our point of view.
A 19-point gap is what Josh Wilkins has. The maximum a single driver can score in a round in One Hub Racing is 21. Now, you've mentioned that the final race is in a couple of weeks' time. Next week would have been the last round, but with it being bonfire night over in the UK, the last round has been moved back another week. So it'll be the 12th of November for the last round at Imola. And we'll mention our sponsors and partners now, Owen, beginning with Next Level Racing, who sponsor One Hub Racing by providing an NLR Direct Drive stand to the Driver of the Season award. 3M Sim Racing, who sponsor the league by providing a pair of their sim racing gloves to the driver with the most combined total of pole positions and fastest laps. Vespertine, who partner One Hub Racing with the championship prizes, and ERT, who partner the league with the Going Gets Tough award.
Yep, a huge thank you to all the sponsors as always, and to all of our many race premium drivers who help us fund the league, and of course for TAS as well, giving us all the in-depth little stats in the race that I'm sure we'll be going over plenty of times tonight with what should be a fantastic race.
So Jason will be thinking he's got a great chance of actually clawing back the advantage at the top. He's at the moment, looking at the championship standings, in third place on 82 points. He's 27 off the lead, so this is a must-win race for him to keep his realistic hopes of the title alive. And it's the same for Alex Lilliard as well, because he's 34 off the lead with a maximum of 42 left on the table.
Yep. Alex, of course, he picked up his first ever league racing win here in 10 years last week in Austria. And so he might be looking, as the sole Alfa Romeo, to try and carry forward his momentum to maybe put himself, 1, into the championship fight, and 2, help Alfa Romeo get across the line with the constructors, because of course 2 Ferraris bearing down on 1 Alfa Romeo means that the constructors fight, only 12 points separating Alfa Romeo, who are ahead of Ferrari, and that could well get close tonight. So he's got a big job tonight, and it could, if he performs well enough, as you say, help him get into the championship.
We had some questions asked tonight to the drivers going into Austin. And one of the questions that was asked was, have you learned anything from watching the F1 drivers strut their stuff around this very same circuit for tonight? And Jess replied, who finished on the podium for the first time in One Hub Racing. She said, Max pitted before Lewis, and that's what helped Max win the race. So it's important to pit before my rivals do, the undercuts. Which I would be inclined to agree with that, because the undercut can prove to be very powerful here in Austin, considering that there are 20 corners, which I believe is the highest number of corners on a permanent racetrack.
Yeah, it's a very good point, the undercut. Jess made that, Aidan made that point as well, I think, and it is definitely something worth looking at, because these aren't slow corners. A lot of these are properly fast 5th, 6th, 7th gear corners, especially on that outlap. You're going to make potentially a second on someone who's on wearing the tyres, and so undercut could become quite a factor. If enough drivers are thinking about it, we could see extremely early pit stops in this race. Could possibly see a safety car pit stops get involved in that as well, but obviously remember, a 2-stop strategy mandatory in this league, and so undercutting could be used quite a lot tonight.
And whilst you mentioned the 2-stop mandatory thing, we saw last week there were plenty more pit stops than two for a lot of the drivers in Austria last week, and what a classic it proved to be, because in damp conditions where spray was still being kicked up, some drivers were on slicks, others were on intermediates, and it made for a very tasty Austrian Grand Prix in the prospect here.
Oh, it did, didn't it? It's the type of league race that we dream of seeing, because it was intermediates or the dry tyres. Which tyres did you want to go for? And anyone who was going onto the dry tyres, there were safety cars, and it meant that the dry tyres could never get up to temperature, and it created one of the most wacky, ridiculous results to league race you'll ever see. And it meant that you had soft runners tumbling down the field, including championship favourites. And it ended up with Alex Lilliard, as we say, taking his first ever win, Smithy taking second place, and Jess ending up third. Just one of those races, and they happen so rarely. And if you haven't seen that, I know I've just spoiled it, but watch it back after this one, after tonight's action. It's absolutely a classic, and I hope we can replicate some.
And just looking at the Stewards Briefing going into tonight, well, maybe before that, because I want to go through the incidents that happened in Austria. I know you said you don't want to spoil it too much, but in terms of the Stewards results from last week, there was only one incident that was reported involving Wace and Storm. Now, a qualifying ban has been issued to Storm, which is going to be served at the next round, which is here in Austin, so we won't expect him to be out on track during then. He's also been given 2 penalty points, which I'm not 100% sure how many points he's got. He's probably got around either 3 or 4, but nothing to the point which to serve a race ban or anything like that, because the number of penalty points is for a race ban is 8. For a season disqualification, it's 10, as far as I know. And the reason why Storm got the penalty was simply because he exited the pit lane in qualifying and blocked Wace on his hot lap at turn 3. The stewards decided to issue a qualifying ban and 2 penalty points to Storm for blocking in qualifying, which has to be served at the next available round.
Yeah, and it was a pretty slam dunk penalty, wasn't it? We saw it happen live. It was pretty simple, and those 2 drivers involved in that incident, Wace and Storm, well, they were subject to questions in the rivalry section of the Thursday press conferences, etc., because they were pretty much the only real incident that got much attention, and it was Wace and Storm being asked questions by each other, and it got extremely sort of heated, the answers we got there. The questions were to Wace, with Storm's quality ban this week, do you think he'll make his way up the grid from last? And to Storm, at least you finished last week and got some points. Any advice to Wace on how to score points consistently? And it kicked off in the answers, didn't it, Tom?
It did, and a little bit of a heat exchange between these 2, but hopefully that doesn't carry out onto the racetrack here. Wace has already been given a couple of penalty points for some of the things which he has said in the chat. So it's no surprise actually to see Wace react to the question that was dished out to him there, and he's just got to hope that these two don't bang heads with each other out on circuit. Otherwise, goodness knows what could follow from there. So I'm just trying to have a look at who has the most penalty points, because I know that Stephen's got 4 as well. He's already served a qualifying ban for this season. He did that at Spa, and just trying to get the penalty points up so that I know who is on how much. So you can see the drivers are ready and up now. And so yeah, Storm is serving a qualifying ban. So just to correct myself from earlier, it's 6 penalty points for a race ban, 8 for a season disqualification.
Yeah, so hopefully no one gets towards that. I'm sure Storm won't end up picking any more up. He'll be very much aware of that situation, and we'll see how he gets on. Just to clarify, just to keep myself right, he's been given a quali ban for this weekend, but then another quali ban for the race after because he's got too many penalty points. So does that mean he's getting 2 quali bans in a row? Am I understanding that correct?
Is that Storm or is that Waste?
Storm.
Well, he's on 4 at the moment, including the 2 he picked up in Austria last week. So I would only imagine he's going to be... I mean, is Storm around tonight? Yeah, he is, yeah. So he'll be out. He won't be going out in this session. So I would imagine it would just be for tonight, and I wouldn't have thought it'd be for Imola as well in a fortnight's time. But we've got an 18-minute qualifying session coming up in Austin, and the stewards have had their say during the briefing. Now, in the prospects here, Storm received a qualifying ban for blocking another driver during the previous qualifying, which we've already discussed that. And in terms of what they said, so the penultimate round of the season and the championships that may be decided as well, which won't happen in the prospects here because Josh, who's leading the championship, isn't around tonight. Austin is an incredible track to drive on, and which gives viewers a perfect opportunity to see some amazing racing. Tension will rise between championship rivals, and it'll be crucial that those drivers stay calm and calculated. Qualifying will be very important as always, but Austin has enough space to make some beautiful overtakes. The drivers would like to wish all drivers good luck and hope the title fights will be safe and filled with respect for each other.
Yeah, and we obviously hope for the same things as drivers getting themselves out on track here, the first one in the Haas. And drivers were also being asked questions today and yesterday about how their practice has been for this race. We always get this question every week, and it's always interesting to see some of the answers that are given. For instance, like Aidan and Jess, they were saying about how their practice were going, and they're so vastly different. For instance, Aidan says he hasn't had much practice, and little practice he had done hadn't gone as well as he would have liked, while Jess was saying Sector 1's a nightmare, but gaining confidence in other sectors while race pace is strong. And that's the type of thing you'll see from a lot of drivers, where some maybe haven't done enough practice and not too sure where their strengths were, or when there's drivers like Jess who know pretty much everything they need to know about how their performance will be. And so it's stuff like that that'll be crucial for a race to get a little bit mental, like last week's did. Alex's question I thought was interesting because he says his practice has been solid, but obviously he hasn't got a teammate this week, and those two normally work together with their setups, etc. And he says he's had to do everything solo with Josh not being there, so he really is carrying this entire team on its back this weekend, and he's got to really make sure he gets everything out of it. It really is a massive weekend for him and for the team.
We've just seen Demon retiring from the session as well, which we've seen on most occasions this season, but the main reason why he's not going out in there is partly because of what he said in the driver's press conference. When he was asked, you avoided a lot of trouble last week to get your best result in one hub racing, currently sitting joint 10th in the standings. Do you think you can stay in this position by the end of the season? And just to paraphrase, because some of what he said wasn't exactly appropriate, but I'll say it as appropriate as it perhaps should be. He said, no, Austria is the only track I try at, hence the result, hence why he went out on circuit, I think, at the time. He's not a fan of the Circuit of the Americas. He thinks it shouldn't be on the calendar at all, or in fact in the game, and he's never raced at Imola on any of the racing games. So, yeah, you can understand Demon's reaction there. I think that just comes down to a matter of opinion, because I personally am a fan of the Circuit of the Americas. It feels like an old school track, but to the modern day standards, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also a fan of this track for similar reasons. You've got, Silverstone, Hockenheim, Turkey, all brought together into what is a really fun track to drive. So, some people maybe don't like it. I can see why you might not be a fan of the S's, but his point he makes about Imola, about not having driven it on other games, I'm sure he's not going to be the only driver in that boat, so I don't think he should be throwing that race sort of away, but we'll see what he does as Kia goes for a spin on his lap. Should recover, although he has hit the walls. Hopefully he hasn't done some rear wing damage there, but the first sort of mistake of the qualifying session. Hopefully he can recover.
I think one of the Red Bulls has gone through. I think that may be indecisive, is it? No, that's Infamous is just about to start a flying lap. So we'll go to Jason. 27 points off the lead. He needs to win here tonight to keep his hopes in the championship alive. He's not going to get a better opportunity than tonight, so he's got to make the most of it here. He is coming into the last corner now, and this time of Jason is going to be a 1 minute 33.5, which sees him go to the top for now.
Yeah, we'll see how that time will stand throughout the session, because there will be plenty of laps coming through. I think next up is going to be Smithy. He got, like I say, a podium last week, so we're expecting him to be on the pace again, and he goes up into second place. Matthias went third on a set of mediums, so there's definitely more pace in his Haas, so look out for that. I'm going to see who's next up. Got Jess, as Kia's actually retired from the session as he enters the pit lane, so I do wonder if he actually has done damage to that rear wing, because there's not really something you can fix in a qualifying session, and it is session over for him, as Jess does move up to 4th place. Not necessarily in a representative time though. A lot of drivers invalidating their times, and that's not really a massive surprise. I mean, look at that sector 1, so easy to cut a corner as Baza moves up to 3rd position, so look out for those invalidations as well. They could prove vital in this session.
Aiden's crossing over the line. He's competed 3 times this season, and he's failed to finish in all 3 of them, so he'll hope fortune will be on his side tonight. I've just seen that Storm has also retired from the session, so I don't know what's happened to him. I don't know whether he's just thinking more about the race rather than going out in qualifying, which is, you know, fair enough from his perspective. Fozzibert, who failed to finish for the 2nd time in 3 races, I believe, with his latest incident in Austria 7 days ago. 19 points off the lead coming into this round, so he'll be thinking about going for a victory that would put him into the lead of the championship, which will make for a very tasty finale, that's for certain. Indecisive is coming through turns 16, 17, 18. I think he's lost his front wing actually somewhere, so that'll be him back into the pits for certain.
Yes, so that is a disaster actually. That's his 2nd try around the lap, and it's both of them have gone a bit wayward, so hopefully he won't be making those mistakes later on, as he does stay out of people's ways though, which is good. And I'm trying to see, everyone's pretty much on inlands apart from Fozzie, so we'll see how he goes. Fozzie, who's obviously looking to bounce back after what happened last week. Indecisive though is somewhat in his way. That will have put him off a little bit, but hopefully he'll still be able to get a good time on the board. Fozzie crosses the line and goes P1 by 4/100ths of a second.
He does so indeed. I wonder if Stephen may be on a fast up as well. Infamous is going quicker than before through sector 2, so we'll go to him in a moment. Buzz has posted the 2nd fastest time in sector 2 alone, so which is why he's 4th fastest at the moment, but he's lost time in the other sectors. Infamous is going nearly a full second quicker than before, so this is potentially going to be a better lap from Infamous by quite some way. But is this going to put him anywhere near Stephen in 6th position? We'll wait and see as the Rebel goes over the line now. It's a 135.5. He found a couple of tenths in the last sector, but still not enough to move him up the order.
Right, so we have some people out there on outlaps, so we'll go on a little bit more with the sort of media day activities. And obviously Storm is out of the session. I just wanted to bring out a couple of the things you did mention about Waste, because you mentioned Waste's reaction was quite strong, but obviously Storm's was also quite strong. A few of the things he's saying, again, I'll paraphrase too, but the main thing Storm was saying is that Waste needs to lower his attitude, because he could be hot-headed, which doesn't always end well. He should worry about scoring points and not about Storm's actual quality ban, and he was asked to give a little bit of advice to Waste as well. And he says if he wants points, he should be focused on his own race and not others. For him to say he doesn't even know why Storm shows up, that's quite disrespectful. And he says it's a bit harsh on him, because yes, he is having a bad season, as Fozzie goes fastest again on the 2nd lap, so that is impressive. I wonder if he can do even quicker on another new set, and one of his teammate, but quickly finish on the Storm. He says he's not a race fan. He hopes in USA and Imola he stays away while he climbs the grid, because if we fight on track in the last 2 races, expect fireworks. So I guess hope those 2 don't go anywhere near each other.
Well, it is one of those heated occasions. We do see it time and time when it comes to rivalries, and not just in one of racing, but maybe in Formula One in general. Like we've seen it over the years, whether it's between Senna and Prost, or Senna and Mansell, or Schumacher and Hill, or even nowadays between Hamilton and Verstappen. So when you see exchange comments like that against the opposing driver, it's not an uncommon thing that you see on the racetrack.
Yeah, I just hope they don't take it too much to heart and actually end up getting a too strong a rivalry, because it can cause issues, and also they end up hitting the wall in the race. They could bring safety cars out and they could throw anything into chaos. So they've got to think about making sure about the bigger picture as well. Hopefully the rivalry isn't too strong and causes issues. Jason's invalidated his lap, so we will not see an improvement from him this time around. Seeing who else is actually getting close to the end of a lap. Shall we have a look at Alex Lilliard then? Hasn't set a lap in this session, but is, like we said, carrying this team today with his teammate not here.
I'm just looking at Joe at the moment because he's going to cross over the line right now. So we'll go to Alex Lilliard in a moment. Joe over the line for Mercedes. He goes up to P6 with the lap he's just posted. We'll go to Alex Lilliard next, who runs wide at turn 19. But luckily was able to keep that lap. And he's gone wide yet again, so he'll be wanting to go for another time lap. So that's by no means a representative lap time from Alex Lilliard. He only goes 8 fastest with the lap he's just posted. Jess is going a lot quicker so far in Sector 1 than what she posted last time on the mediums, so she'll be one to look out for as Oles goes over the line up to 5th place. Now, Oles was on the cold list last week, which I'll go over now. And just looking at the cold list as soon as I can find it on the prospects here. Oles has been a driver that has got a couple of podiums this season, but got a DNF in Austria, which doesn't look good for his team in the Constructors.
Yeah, he has been on good form in a DNF last week. It should be easy enough to come back from, and you can see evidence of that already as his teammate crosses the line and moves up to P3. So McLaren sitting 4th and 7th now, because Matthias has split the 2 Ferraris. So good stuff from him, and Smithy has actually become the first in the 32s for AlphaTauri. But yeah, like I say, and as you say as well, I think Oles, he should be okay. I think his connection was the issue, wasn't it, last week? So bit of an unfortunate reason to sort of be put into the cold list, but should, like we say, be easy enough to come back from. And who's that across the line? Tyson gets his first time on the board. Jess is around the final corner, as you said, was improving in the first sector. She's gone up to 12th, and unsurprisingly, after her first ever podium last week, she is the hot driver. So we'll see how she gets on later tonight.
So Jess up to P12. I don't know if we'll see wet weather conditions. I'm just looking at the times at the moment, though. All the top 10 have set times on the soft compound. So could this give an indication there's rain on the way for the race?
That could be an indication. It could also be them already thinking about the strategy. Perhaps they don't want to be on the soft tyres for too much of the race, get off them early and do a 2-stop soft to medium. That could be what they're thinking. But yeah, it could also be rain. There were questions asked about the rain. I think we always have this question as well. Do the drivers ever have any plans for if rain is coming? Because it is an important factor, as we saw last week. And if it does rain, what are their plans just in case it does happen? And a lot of them are basically the basics. Aidan saying don't crash. And others sort of saying it shouldn't be anything special. Smithy was saying that one. All says he has plans, won't tell us what they are. Jason, though, he's pretty much the highest in the championship. He was answering the questions. He says he's only prepared for the dry conditions, and so that could end up quite bad if we have more of our rain as West goes fastest for Mercedes. But yeah, if it does rain, I mean, some people don't expect it at all. I mean, Jamie Met says it's Texas, it won't rain, but we have had wet races here before in real life. So I'm amazed that some of these drivers maybe aren't, sort of thinking about it.
And you mentioned rain, it happened in the 2015 US Grand Prix in Austin, and I think on the Friday in 2018 as well. So it's not like the Circuit of the Americas don't ever get rain. It does sometimes get rain. Just because it's in Texas doesn't mean it gets rain at all. Like in the Middle East, for instance. But it's a wonderful racetrack, both wet and dry, and the Circuit of Americas has produced some brilliant races over the years. We watch Buzzer, who is a fan's favourite actually. He's got quite a number of fans been watching him in previous races, and possibly tonight, who knows. Goes over the line, and he lost a little bit of time in the last sector, but the lap he's produced is still good enough to put him up to 7th place.
So drivers are starting to come out of the pits now for what could be their last runs. We've got Aiden, we've got Stevens, 2 Williams, we've got Fozzie Bear, who sits 3rd place. Not good enough for him, is it? Because he needs to be taking full advantage of Josh not being here and taking the victory. Also taking full advantage of the fact that Alex Lilliard doesn't seem to have much pace. We were watching the end of his qualifying lap before, and there's definitely time in it, but if he can't keep it on the road, he's never going to find that time. So you're either going to see a massive jump from Alex or nothing at all, and the Ferraris are just going to make sure they're able to cover that.
And Infamous going too deep into turn 12, which will cost him some time for sure. And you can see that in the second sector alone. So it was, I think it was around about half a second up by sector 1 alone, but that mistake won't have helped him one bit. So just look to see if there's any other drivers. Well, Stevens just started the lap. Buzzer's coming back into the pits to get another set of softs on for sure. And maybe Infamous may as well just come into the pits to get another set of soft tyres on, because this is his... Oh, it's another set. So it's a different set to what he posted his best time on. It's coming through now, and this lap that he's going to put in is only slightly quicker than before. He remains in P13, does Infamous. Just looking to see what Stevens up to. He's a 10th up by sector 1 alone. Fozzie Bear has started a flying lap, so he's most certainly one to look out for. He needs to find 6/10 to get back into provisional pole position. There's no points for pole position in One Hub Racing. But as far as the point system is concerned in the race, the top 12 score points with 20 points for the race winner, 17 for second, 14 for third, right all the way down to 1 point for 12th. There's also a point for the driver in the top 10 with the fastest lap, and a point for the driver outside the top 10, providing they finish, of course. They also get a point for that.
Yep, so all those points are important to think about. But as you say, nothing for qualifying. Shouldn't stop these guys pushing for it though. Fozzie is a 10th up in the first sector, but we'll see how he can get on throughout the rest of the lap. Possible distant tow from the Red Bull ahead, but it probably doesn't make much of a difference as he heads through sector 2. Fozzie is now a quarter of a second up. Still not quite there, the one Wace's time, which looks very good at the moment. Of course, I think he has been on pole before, hasn't he, Wace? Was it Bahrain? He ended up in the wall very quickly, but he does have the pace. As we see Fozzie heading through the triple right-hander and in towards the final 2 corners then. And we'll see if this time can challenge the front row. It should be good for second, but can he beat Wace in the Mercedes? Let's see, look at the time. He hasn't even beaten Smithy. It was an improvement, but it was a slower last sector than his previous attempt, and it has cost him. So he's going to have to really pull something out of the bag, if he even has time to, in a final run.
There was some debris as well on the exit of the last corner. I don't know if you saw it, but when Fozzie Bear went by, there was some debris, both on the racing line and on the runoff area on the exit of turn 20. Stevens come back into the pits, so he's not going back out again. Joa is on a lap that's invalidated. Aiden's on a flying lap. Alex, he was on a flying lap, but he's lost time somewhere. I don't know. He's just backing off at the moment, but he needs to be careful, because if there are drivers on flying laps, he needs to make sure he stays out of the way.
Jason's fast.
Yeah, Jason is going quick through sector 2. That's his personal best. So he's set a personal best, but not a best overall of everyone. So Jason, currently in 5th fastest, he needs to get up there with Fozzie Bear and Smithy, ideally. Here he comes. He's coming up to an Alpine as he crosses over the line now. Jason goes up to the front row, so that's a decent lap time there from Jason.
Yeah, good stuff from him, but Matthias for Haas by 1,000th of a second has managed to beat Wace, but there is still time in the session. Wace, though, he's on an lap. I don't think he's going to get to the line in time, or at least by my time, and there's 15 seconds on the clock, and he's only heading through the triple right-hander now, so that's going to be tight for him. And no one else is crossing line to finish that performance. Let's just quickly check that Wace is going to actually start a lap. Oh, he's just made it. So he is going to be the last man across the line. Will it be enough to go pole position? We'll have to wait and see. Who's on a flyer then? We've got Jamie Met is slowed down because he's invalidated. Baza, is he on one or is he also backing off?
No, he's on one.
Is.
And he's going. He's going quicker through sector one. I'm just looking at Alex Lilliard, who had a really poor first sector though. He's currently 13th on a 1:35.1, and he's still down by sector two. So this is a really poor qualifying session for Alex, where he really needed to make it one of his best over the course of the season. Jess is coming through at the moment. She's only 15th on a 1:35.8. The driver who finished on the podium 7 days ago at the Red Bull Ring. Can she improve her time? If she's going to move up the order, she needs to find 6:10s here. We'll stay with her and see if she does improve, as the next driver behind is Jason. I don't know if Jason's on an improvement, to be honest with you. You may have to fill me in on that. But Jess goes over the line. She goes up to 14. So decent effort there from Jess. Jason's coming into the pit, so third or lower is where he'll end up. Buzzer still down by sector two, actually. So he's given up. He's given up the lap. So Buzzer out of the frame for pole. Aiden's back in the pits. And
Wace is quick.
Wace is going very quick, actually. So this could be good enough to put him on pole position. And he's got no drivers at the moment that could potentially hold him up. You can see one of the Alpha Toes going into the pit lane. So Wace has got a free run to the line now. Exiting turn 20. Keeps the car within the track limits. And he goes to pole position. So he goes to pole by nearly 2 tenths of a second. Wace on pole position in the prospects here in Austin.
Good lap, and he made it just with a second to spare as well, so he really did leave it to the very last moment, and it's worked out. And Wace on pole position here in Austin. Will it end the same way as it did in Bahrain, or will he be able to pick up a victory tonight? It'll certainly model up the championship, and Josh will certainly be hoping that the Mercedes driver can convert. But we'll wait and see how it all goes. But it was a fantastic qualifying for him. Matthias as well, beating the Ferrari of Jason to second. And then it was Smithy ahead of Fozzie Bear, who will need a big performance today to try and get himself close in the championship. Because P5, not what he wanted.
So Wace lines up on pole position with Matthias in P2. Another front row start for him. Then it's Jason and Smithy on the second row, ahead of Fozzie Bear and Jamie. Bazza and Oz are on row 4, ahead of Joa and Aiden. Alex Lilliard in a really disappointing 11th. He's got it with it all to do in the race to keep his championship hopes alive. He's alongside Stephen. Then it's Mackie and Jess on row 7. Infamous is 15th, the last of those to set a time. Then it's Kia, Storm and Demon rounding off the grid for the race.
Right then, so it is an interesting grid. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this race will end up panning out, because Ferrari are going to have to go a little bit aggressive here to try and make this work. Obviously, as you say, Alex Lilliard's a bit down on the grid, but he does at least get the free tyre choice, which might help him out, but maybe not as much in a mandatory 2-stop, but you never know, he could still make something work. And yeah, we'll quickly answer one more of the questions from the previous interviews, because all the drivers were asked what are they hoping to gain this week. And I guess for the title contenders, it'll be interesting to see what they say compared to how their qualifying has gone so far. Jason, again, one of the people who was answering the questions, he says anything but a podium would be a disappointment for him in Ferrari, so he needs to hold his grid position at the very least to achieve his goal. And Alex says that he needs solid points, but it is worth pointing out that he has already made it clear the CODEMASTERS is one of his weakest tracks, and crucially that he has been having pad issues, and that could prove a very important factor tonight for those championship drivers.
So just let's see what the weather could be, because I know that Kia answered questions as well, and it's going to be dry, which is much to his relief, because he answered the question, do you have any plans in place for dealing with any potential weather changes this week? And Kia said, I haven't really got a plan, but I'm just hoping it doesn't rain, as it wouldn't be fun. Well, it looks like his prayers have been answered, because it looks as though it's going to be a dry race. Having said that, if all the top 10 are starting on the soft compounds, could it rain later?
Well, we'll wait and see. Obviously, blue sky for now, but in this game we see it so often where it just changes and it's raining just like that. And so they'll all be thinking about it. They'll obviously all see the weather forecast in front of them, something that we, as commentators, don't see on the game, because partly I don't really want to look at it, actually, because it sort of ruins it for us. It's more fun to have a bit of a, sort of a, guessing game on it and say, oh, what's going to happen, because more realistic that way. But the drivers know exactly what's going to happen. All we do is talk about it. But another question that Alex answered, and it's going to be more relevant now because of where he's starting. And it was a question asked everyone: are you looking forward to any battles? Who with? And Alex was the only one to not really give the sort of PR, oh, I like racing this guy, oh, this guy's fun to race, oh, I'm looking forward to racing everyone. He said, everyone is just another driver to beat. Why be friends out there? Everyone wants to win. They're all rivals on race day. He doesn't get this whole sort of being friends mentality. And he's a little bit ruthless. He's going to need that today. He can't just score 2 points. That's not enough for him. He needs to move forward.
Yeah, I think Alex needs to absolutely throw everything at it and help Alfa Romeo, because Alfa Romeo took the lead of the Constructors' Championship last time out with Austria with a good haul of points they picked up. They are 12 clear of Ferrari. McLaren they're still mathematically in there, I think, but only just. And I'm interested to see how AlphaTauri get on here. They're out of the championship running for this season in the prospect tier, but I think they're hungry to get a race victory before the season's over. So keep an eye out on how Smithy and Buzzer get on, because I saw Smithy also answer questions, and he was basically asked, what are you hoping to gain this week? Are you looking forward to any battles? Who with? He's saying all I'm hoping to do is finish and gain some constructors points, which is fair enough to him. And I think there's been some races this season where Smithy hasn't quite maximised the performance into a race result, so I think that'll be something which he'll be focusing on. So looking at the grid going into the race, the top 13 are all starting on the softs, the rest are on mediums. So it's going to be a matter of just keeping your nose clean at the start, I would think, and then see what happens from there on.
Yeah, just make sure you get through that start phase. This turn 1 is such a massive corner, and so it's so easy to lose your race here. And so they're all just going to make sure they get through that all first. And I think someone had mentioned that. Who mentioned that? I'm trying to remember who had said. But it was Aiden. He said the first corner is an exciting one. And he must be thinking about it, because it is probably the most exciting turn 1 of the season, I'd argue. Just with how massive it is. Really anything could happen. So a good launch off the grid here could make a big difference. Will Weiss and Matthias have any issues that might affect these Ferraris? He'll be trying to bear down them as quickly as possible as we all line up on the grid. This really could go to anyone today, and this looks an exciting race.
It looks very exciting indeed. Weiss on pole position with Matthias alongside. Weiss's best result this season has been a second place finish in round 3. So 18 cars on the grid then. We are ready to go for the penultimate round of the season here in Austin. Who will lead into that turn 1 first? The 5 red lights appear in front of the drivers. When they extinguish, we're racing here at the Circuit of the Americas. It's lights out, and away we go. Weiss gets off to a very good start, as does Jason, who gets by Matthias straight away, and he could get a toe off the Mercedes as they go into turn 1. So Weiss is ahead, but can Matthias get there? There's contact made between Weiss and Matthias, so Matthias spins round. Jason gets up to second, Fosbert up to third place. So good start from both Ferrari drivers. Weiss is in the lead, ahead of 2 Ferraris and 2 AlphaTauris. Matthias down to 6th position, ahead of Jamie, Joe, Aiden, and Lilliard up to 10th.
So good stuff then from Ferrari. They're both going to be bearing down on the Mercedes of Weiss, and I'm sure not going to take too long to try and deal with him. But it was a move from the Haas of Matthias that just didn't quite go to plan, and you can see he's falling down the grid now as a result of it. He must have some sort of damage, and it's a shame to see a good qualifying performance come to nothing. Alex Lilliard is trying to fight for P7. He has got stripped by Aiden as well, but Aiden does fight back, and as he says, he's going to be ruthless today, Alex, and he's already showing he can. The 2 AlphaTauris have swapped positions. That wasn't an overtake, that was absolutely a yield from Smithy. So Baza is going to go and chase the leading drivers away as Alex goes down the inside and gets himself ahead of Aiden West, and he's up to 8th place. Good start.
Contact.
Oh,
there's contact. Yeah, Mackie hit the back of Aiden, which sent Aiden into Elliott. So I wonder if Aiden's got damage as well. Mackie's broken his front wing, and another driver with damage. It's Matthias. You can see on the right hand side. Oh, it's contact. He's turned in on the Red Bull behind. The stewards may look at that afterwards, but Matthias is most certainly going to need to come into the pit to get that front wing replaced.
Yeah, that's a slam dunk pit stop, isn't it? There's absolutely no way you'll be able to drive around here with that sort of damage. As Wace leads at the end of lap 1, Smithy pitting, so that's why he let his teammate go. A lot of a commotion going on at the pit lane entry. Is there going to be more contact as they all try and find their way through at the back of the grid? It's all going wrong for Alls, who's really down as a result of everything that's going on, but he's now going to make a few places back up because we have 6 cars in the pits. So that turn 1 really did claim a lot of front wings, didn't it? Because there was so much going on there.
And Storm taking advantage of all those pits, and he's moved up into 7th place. So he's had a fairly clean first lap. He's the highest of those that started on the mediums. And Alex is now up into P6. He's got some ground to make up at the moment on Jamie, but this is the start he wanted.
Yeah, it's a good start for him. He's in the clean air now as well, so he can just focus on what he's doing and try and get the result that he really needs tonight. As we see, though, the 2 Ferraris, they're just holding back for a little bit because I'm sure they're waiting for the DRS. It's a very similar situation to the real-life race, actually, where the Mercedes is just being hounded by the faster car, waiting to find an opportunity to go through. Will these two decide to go via the undercut method that Verstappen went for, or are they going to go via the DRS method on the next lap, or the laps following as well? Because they've got to work together. They've got a 2.2 second gap back to the AlphaTauri of Baza, and it means that they can afford to fight. Oh, yeah, that's Wace.
That's Wace
on his way round, and that is going to answer the question for us then. Wace did it himself, and I don't think he was hit by anyone. As the Ferraris pull away, they don't seem to be pitting. There was no front wing damage or anything like that, so I believe it's just Wace making a mistake, and those tyres are going to be really heated up now, so he's got to make sure he doesn't lose his head, because if he has another mistake, that car will be spinning like a top.
Wace spinning all by himself at turn 18. That hands the lead to Jason and moves Fozzie Bear into 2nd place. So that not only has implications for the Drivers' Championship, but for the Constructors as well. Because with Alex in 6th place and Josh not around for tonight, Ferrari could move back into the lead in the Constructors' Championship going into the last round of the season at Imola in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's absolutely a dream situation for those two at the front, but they've got to make sure there's no issues. Remember, these two... again, spoilers for last week, but they collided last week, the 2 Ferraris, and it put Fozzie out of the race under the safety car conditions at Austria. So they've got to make sure they avoid any sort of contact there. Jason, I think it said that the only person he'd really want to be fighting with in this race is his own teammate, because they do push each other well and they do get along. So at least of the cars that could be fighting for the lead, Jason's happy enough that it's his own teammate. But in the terms of the championship, really, I suppose Fozzie will be sort of hoping that there's some sort of swap going to happen, because he needs this to take the championship lead. And of course Jason will be sitting there thinking, well, hold on a minute, I'm still in this as well. So hopefully it doesn't get a little bit too nasty between those two, as they quickly begin to realise, hold on, I could do a finish ahead of you for the championship here. Only one round to go after this.
Yeah, and I've just seen Alex in 6th place behind Wace at the moment. He needs to get by him as soon as he can to gain every bit of ground on the likes of Jason and Fozzie Bear. He needs to get ahead of both of them to keep his hopes in the championship alive. So where he is at the moment would put Alex out of the title race as Fozzie Bear posts a new fastest lap. So as it stands, he would get that championship point. So as it stands, Fozzie Bear would get 18 points, Jason would get 20. So as it stands in the championship, Jason would move on to 102 points, Fozzie Bear would move on to 108, and Josh Wilkins will be on 109.
Brilliant, isn't it? How close it's going to end up being. As Smithy there sets the fastest lap time. Of course, he has made his first mandatory stop, and I'm just saying the gap that he has. Was this actually a strategic pit stop? Let me just check. No, it was definitely a front wing. He's just made a really good gap to the guys behind him, and so I guess he's the lead driver to have made one stop, but he's trying to pass Jess and Kia now, as we see the Ferrari swapping positions. So Fozzie making it easy to get himself past Jason, who wasn't going to fight that one off. So the Ferraris, they swap position, and that might be a safety car with indecisive in the wall on the exit of turn 2. And just look out on the top left of the screen, will we see a virtual safety car, will we see a full safety car? It could promote some pit stops, this, but I believe it's going to stay green as Alls gets himself past Storm. Storm has been holding these guys up for a little bit, and still fighting away, getting past Alls. So these two sort of in a fight of their own and nearly making contact. Of course, Storm is the highest runner on the medium compound tyre, so he is having a good race, and that might explain with a little bit of a lack of pace because of the tyre. Oh nearly contact as Alls fights back, and now they're going to go for the triple right-hander. Really risky stuff this at the start of the race, but Storm is coming out on top. And look at the gap though, 11 seconds to the car in front. It's sort of a 2 races now at this point, the front guys and the rest, and now you can see they're still fighting for it side by side. And Infamous will be looking to try and get involved, and he might actually have a look at passing Alls, because he's getting the major toe off Storm, who does actually get dive bombed by Alls again, and they're slowing themselves down so much. It's entertaining, but their races are being a bit ruined by this. Look at the time they're losing.
And Storm's driving the race of his life. I mean, he hasn't got anything to lose, and there's no blue flags involved, so why should he let all those behind pass when he's racing for position with them? Waze has picked up the first time penalty of the race as well for chart limits, so he's got his work cut out from here on in, and Alex may be able to get a good exit out of here and get a move done finally on the Mercedes. Here we go, look, I think he's got him here, to be honest with you, Owen.
Yep, looks pretty good to me, and that'll be Alex Lilliard up into the top 5 now. Waste decides he's not going to fight him back, but Alex has gone off the track. And so that will promote Waste back up, and Alex is not going to dive him, so that's a mistake there from Alex. And really could have done with not having that happen, as Alls again tries to overtake Storm, and this time he has got him.
So Alls getting past Storm finally into 7th place. It took him longer than it should have been, quite frankly. But at least he's got past him now, and he can at least help his team.
Oh, contact! The Storm tried up the inside. Hopefully there's no damage. Is Infamous going to get past him now? Not quite. As we see the first pit stops of this race for the front guys without any pit stop, any front wings being needed to be changed. So this is a proper strategy being started. So, undercut time. Waste and Baza. And it's mediums for Baza, softs for Waste. Interesting to see that. Now, with all the fighting going on, where are they going to be in comparison to the likes of Alls and Storm? They will be behind, but it's not like they're that far back. It's only 3 cars to overtake, and then they're in some really clean air. But Baza's got to get the moves done quick. And let's see how he can do on Infamous, because it's not an easy corner to make any sort of movement. But he is going to just leave himself enough room, Baza, and try and cut back, but no way for Infamous just yet. He's so much quicker.
He's so much quicker than Infamous, most certainly, and not just because he's got better tyres, but he's got more pace. You can see he's trying to complete a switcheroo on the Red Bull. He may be better just getting the DRS on the back straight, then he'll be able to go past, go right round the outside of the Red Bull. Can he get a better exit coming out of there? Infamous needs to make sure he's there. I think. Yeah, he needs to make sure he leaves him enough room there. Buzzer was able to get through and up into 7th place, no problem there.
Yeah, but Waste is going to now try and get by Baza, who's lost so much time in this, and Waste does get by Baza, and so, well, Infamous, he's done Baza in there, really, by not maybe seeing him on the exit of the corner, and Baza now at a bit of a disadvantage, although Waste nearly went straight into the back of Storm, and Storm has actually just moved over for him effectively, and so Waste has now put a car between himself and Baza, and he is now making this undercut work relatively well, but he will have to pit a little bit earlier for his next stop because he is on the sauce. They do not last as long as those mediums will.
I imagine Baza will get him on the pit straight here. He'll be in the slipstream and he'll have a go into turn 1. So Baza threw up into 7th place, but he's lost far too much time during the course of that outlap, and this is going to be advantage Ferrari for certain. And for Waste as well, actually, because the fact he's got by Buzzer, he's now effectively in play for the race victory. And Storm, he's gone off the track on the exit of turn 1, and that could bring out the safety car, and it has done. So that brings the field right back up. Now, who does this favour, Owen?
Well, I would have said it would favour the 2 Ferraris. I think they've got the gap to stack here. But if they don't, then one of these 2 Ferraris might face a drop in position. The top 5 should all be able to get a stop in and not lose as much as they would have. Alex Lilliard should, hopefully, all being well, be confirmed 4th place for this restart. And if a Ferrari does end up having to stack and losing time, he could even leapfrog one of them. So this could benefit Alex Lilliard if all goes wrong for Ferrari. But let's see. Will they decide to stack? Will they just take the penalty that comes with it and sort of get on with the rest of their race? Let's see. So Fozzie Bear, obviously they're all sticking to the delta. That's why the 8 second gap might be enough for them to stack, and they will stack. So, I assume the rest of this top 5 are going to come in. There's no real reason to stay out. Perhaps the medium runners of Infamous, Demon, Jess, and Kia might stay out, but we'll see. So you can see there, look at that. We have Jason stopped there. He had to wait a couple of seconds for his team to get ready. All this time, we have Jamie making his stop and having to wait a little bit for Alex Lilliard. But does Jason get out in front? No, he doesn't. So Jason is jumped by Jamie Met. And so he will be the big winner out of all this, because as you can see, he's coming out ahead of Waste still, I believe. So
no, he's
yeah,
not.
That's worked out. Oh! That was close, Jason, wasn't it? But he's had to dive past Waste, and he's just about kept his podium position. And, well, geez, that was... He knew he had to do that, didn't he? But yeah, I'd say Jamie then, the big winner out of all that.
Well, what I was going to say was, with Waste on soft compound tyres, he may have the advantage on the restart, so Waste needs to use that to his advantage. But yeah, Jason leapfrogged by Jamie during the round of pit stops, which is not good news for him. So that's potentially, well, that's a lost position there for Jason. And Jamie up into second place and doing a fine job so far in the McLaren. Alex is in 6th place right now. He's gone to another set of softs, so he needs to be on the mediums or the hards for the last stint. I'm just looking to see who else is... well, Matthias has already been in the pits a few laps earlier. I wonder if he'll either maybe gone to the mediums or the hards during this safety car period.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens. I'd be surprised though if it happens this early, but we'll see what happens. But just wanted to point out, you can see why the Ferrari had to stack, because look at the rest of the field now closing in. It was a decision that was always gonna sort of ruin Jason's run a little bit. And yeah, I know he'll probably be a little bit annoyed that the McLaren beat him out, but it could have been so much worse. Just a bad timing on that safety car. Waste though, I was surprised how close he was to nicking second, weren't you? I mean, that was really good work he had done on that outlap, and it nearly worked out really nicely for him. But as you say, he will have the better tyre on the restart, and so might still be able to get up to that second place, if not even first.
Well, he's got a penalty as well hanging over him, so Waste needs to make sure he bridges enough of a gap to get a podium finish at the very minimum, really, from this one. Waste has had quite a troublesome season with incidents that he's been involved with, and not just on the track but off it as well. So he needs to make sure he keeps his cool throughout this one. In terms of who's on the hot list for the right reasons, I'm just trying to think who has been on the hot list so far. I'd be tempted to say that Jamie would go onto my hot list at the moment, because he's kept his car out of trouble, no contact with anyone so far, and getting himself up into second place.
Yeah, Jamie, who I believe was on the hot list last week, I want to say, so it wouldn't be a surprise to see him go back up there again, because he's clearly proven that he is one of the drivers in form. Of course, you could also give it to Faulty Bear, couldn't you? Because he's made the same gain that Jamie has in this race. He's gone up 4 places, but crucially, he's doing exactly what he needs to do for the championship, and I think if he went into the finale as the hot driver, that would put the pressure on Josh a little bit. But yeah, certainly those top 2 are herb races, and Alex able to catch up to the back of the pack. He's on the soft compound tyre after his pit stop, and so he might be able to make something happen on the restart and make up even more positions. He's already made 5 so far.
So Fostervale leads behind the safety car. Jamie's second ahead of Jason and Waste. Bazza is 5th ahead of Alex and Matthias. Yoa, Ols and Infamous round out your top 10 so far. Now, if the race was to finish as it is now, with the positions as they are, out of those in the top 10, who's got the fastest lap? That's Fozzie Bear, I believe. So that would be a championship point for him, as well as another 20. He'd be leading the World Championship by 2 points going into the last round of the season at Imola. Jason, who would get only 14 from this race, he would move on to, if I can get my standings up, he would move on to 96 points. So, as it stands, Fozzie will be on 111, Josh Wilkins will be on 109, and Jason will be on 96. Alex Elliott will be out of the running for the title.
Well, safety cars in this lap, so let's see if those permutations are going to stay the way they are at the moment, or whether we're going to see a bit of a twist in the tail. So, safety car lights are off. He'll be pulling to the pits. It must be said, Fozzie Bear is staying very close to it, isn't he? So he's going to have to back off a lot as we head into this final corner. It should be a pretty simple restart for him as he just heads round and should be able to floor out of his last corner. And he does indeed, and so the race is back underway. Weiss on those softs is making some moves, as is Alex Lilliard, who's side by side with Baza. And look at the Ferrari, Jason having a look on the inside into turn 1 on Jamie Met, can't make it work. Alex decided to back off on his attempts on Baza as Matthias and Joe fight away down the hill, and they're very understeery down there. Luckily no contact being made, but at the front that top 6 have actually all held position, which surprises me.
So Jason still in P3 at the moment, which is good news. He wants to get ahead of Jamie, but he won't be able to use the DRS as it's been disabled for the first 2 laps of the restart. What will Weiss decide to do here? He's not going for it there. Jason takes a tighter line into turn 11 than Jamie does, and he's not able to close in on Jamie enough, so it could well be waiting behind a couple of laps before he makes his move. As Infamous gets overtaken by Ols here, or is he going past Ols actually? I think he's going past him. So Infamous cutting through ahead of the McLaren. They went wheel to wheel as well into turn 12, but he kept it clean, and that's the Red Bull going up into 9th position.
Of course, it was those two who were fighting Storm for so long, lost them so much time to the front guys. So this safety car sort of put them back where they maybe feel they should be. Right on this is Infamous on the soft tyres. Going to be trying to get by Joer, who's on older medium tyres. Should be able to get this one done quick enough. And yeah, he'll be playing himself into a nice position later on. And it'll be good to see him get a good result today. But let's see how it all goes. At the front, Jamie has not got the pace that Fozzie Bear has got, and it's holding Jason back now. And he'll be hoping for that DRS to come into play soon enough, or if he can just get an overtake done even now, he would really benefit from it, because he is seeing his teammate just off in the distance now, so he doesn't want to let Weiss get onto this either, who is obviously on the quicker, soft compound of tyre.
I saw Jason cut the corner a little bit there, so I'd imagine he would have got a warning from that. You may have to fill me on who has as many warnings in comparison to other drivers, Owen, whilst we watch Jason, fight it out with Weiss for 3rd place. He's having to go defensive into turn 11, and Weiss to the outside. Jason leaves him enough room, and Jason remains in 3rd place for now, but that's lost him crucial ground to Jamie. As Weiss gets into the slipstream of the Ferrari, goes to the inside, just where you ideally want to be at, and Weiss could well be up into 3rd place on the road. And he is so that's the Mercedes through there, as Infamous now gets past Joer. So Infamous having a good restart so far, actually. Gets the car slowed down in time, and he's up into 8th.
Yeah, this is exactly what Jason didn't want to happen, isn't it? He was making himself a real target for Weiss there, and he's now falling back from the Mercedes, so he's just going to try and keep in touch, because now he's only 2 cars, well, 1 car separating him and Alex Lilliard, who'll be seeing all that going on. As we have some yellow flags, is that for Aiden West? It is indeed. Should be able to recover. DRS is now enabled, but I don't think West is going to need it, because he's going to go straight past Jamie Met. The pole sitter, remember, he's trying to get himself back onto the lead of this race, and he's now only 1 overtake away from it. Jason is going to try and nick himself past the McLaren, and nearly hits him on the exit of turn 1, so Jamie stays ahead of Jason. And it's a really bad situation for the 2nd Ferrari in this race, as Fozzie now leads by 2 seconds, and Weiss will be trying to catch him now, but we'll see what DRS does. Perhaps Jason can get back into this race via that method, as Joer picks up a penalty. Just on penalties, of course, if you're asking me to look at the warnings. Jason and Jimmy have got 2 each, and obviously we see that Weiss has got a penalty. I don't think Fozzie's picked up any warnings yet, and Jason still doesn't want to go for the overtake. You've got to make it work quicker, because it's lost you so much time. As is there a car off? Is that Baza off? He's gone for a spin. That means that Jason, if he doesn't get this move done, there's literally the car behind him will be Alex. So this is a really important move. He dives up the inside and is up into the podium positions once again, and now he has to try and keep within the 2nd of Weiss. So he's going to have to do a little bit of catching up now.
Yeah, and Weiss's tyres will be beginning to fall away. So this is Jason's chance to get back through and start threatening his teammate, which is what he needs to do. He needs to ideally finish ahead of him to close in the battle for the title here, does Jason. If he can get maximum points, that would help him very, very much. As we can see him closing on Wace. It's not quite within a second of him yet, I don't think. I don't know if he got DRS. I don't think he did. He wasn't within a second at the detection point, so he's going to have to make do without that for now. But at least he's pulling clear of Jamie.
Yeah, you can see how much he's pushing is Jason, losing the rear ends out of the corners. He's just going to make sure he doesn't ruin the tyres too early. We're not even at the halfway point in his race, and while he should be able to get a set of, I'd imagine, softs to the end of the race relatively easy, you don't want to ruin tyres too early, because it could end up putting you into a vulnerable position from the cars behind, because Jamie Met he's sort of on the edge of getting back into his DRS. The detection point is on the way down to the hairpin, and Jason widen off the track. That might just help Jamie. It will help Jamie, so he's going to get DRS, and Jason isn't. And so, yeah, I think Wace will just be down the road now. He's too busy trying to get back into the race lead. Obviously, he has a penalty. He's going to have to deal with that. And we know he's quick because he was on pole position. So, really, Wace just needs to get on with us here and try and pass the Ferrari of Fozzie Bear. And I think he should be able to do it. He can just keep closing that gap. It just depends how long these tyres are going to last for.
To be honest, I think if Fozzie Bear was to be overtaken, I don't think he'll fight it too much because he knows that Wace is on old tyres anyway. Fozzie Bear could effectively go to the end of the race if he wanted to. Just look and see how many stops he's made. No, he would need to pit again actually to make sure he pits twice, because you are supposed to pit twice in one hub racing. Wace at the moment is just trying to eke out as much tyre performance as possible before he decides to go onto the mediums.
Yeah, we've got a pit stop from a tyre, so that's 10 laps on the soft. That's how much he's happy to do. So that possibly means that Wace might have, 3 laps then to try and get himself into a position ahead of Fozzie, as Jimmy Met closes and closes, but not quite close enough to pass Jason, who's now 2.3 seconds off the flying Mercedes. I mean, it absolutely is a very quick car for now, Wace. So he's got to try and keep this up to try and get within DRS at the right moment. As you saw, he was under a second, but he's not going to be if he keeps missing the apexes like that. And so there was a little chance there possibly to have to run on DRS's lap, which he might well have missed out on, has Wace. But yeah, he just needs to keep it consistent. Obviously the 3-second penalty might be a bit of a handicap later on, as will the tyre compounds, because this will be flipped on him, I'd imagine, with him being on mediums and soft tyres chasing him. He should at least get the undercut and will lead the race again, I imagine, but he's going to have to deal with this exact situation, or the car catched him on quicker tyres, I'd imagine, later in the race. So yeah, this might be a little bit of a preview of what you might see at the end.
One driver who's doing very well at the moment is Infamous, who's in 6th place and closing in on Alex as well. So Infamous closing was within a second. He had the DRS, I believe, on the back straight, and Alex, I don't know if he notices that Infamous is there. He must do if he's looking at the gaps. But as Infamous runs wide on the exit there, that'll help Alex a little bit. But I think Wace needs to think about coming in for a pit stop at some point. He doesn't do at the end of this lap, so he may decide to do it on the next one.
Yeah, I'd said about Infamous earlier. Like I say, he was one of the drivers who was sort of being caught up behind the storm train, and was one of the drivers that was so far off the lead. I suspected he had pace, and he's sort of proven it now, isn't he? That he does have pace, and has made 9 positions so far. So that could be a driver who might be on for driver of the day later on. We'll wait and see how he gets on. But at the front, Wace again loses a bit of time for the S's. That seems to be his weak point on this track. He seems everywhere else to be able to get the gap closed in, but then just loses it all here. Jason's pulled clear of DRS on Jimmy Met, so he's sort of doing his own thing now. He's starting to catch Wace a little bit, in fact. But Infamous, let's see if he can get a move done on this particular lap on Alex Lilliard, who I don't think will be able to give much of a defence. The only thing he might well have is the fact that Infamous's ERS is very low indeed, but I think the raw pace in that Red Bull might just be enough to help him get ahead and stay ahead. Alex Lilliard's doing his best to break the toe on the straight, but when it comes to the overtake, he can only move once, and Infamous is going to go down the inside, but decides to back off from it. Or is that Alex going wide again? That's exactly what it is. So Alex, well, he's held the position by going off the road. I wonder if anyone's going to have anything to say about that. It's obviously in real life, you'd be told to get that position back.
You would do, wouldn't you? And Infamous, I'm surprised he backed it off that much, if I'm honest with you. He should have just stayed as aggressive as he was, and then he would have got that position. But he's still behind Alex at the moment. And so Infamous, well, he's not been aggressive enough, so he needs to just he needs to go for it when he knows it's there.
Yeah, but he's gotta do it when he's sure. You gotta remember where his championship position. Where is he in the championship? We'll have a little look. Because I'm not entirely sure he's having the best season. He's doing all right, but he wants to make sure this is a big chance for big points today, and so he just wants to make sure he's able to get there in a decent result. I think his best finish this season is 5th, so he's going to try and equal that again today. But I think there's more in it for him. I really do. I think there could be a potential podium if he gets really up the road, because I think his pace on the road, on his own, is one of the best out there.
And Alex at the moment, he's losing too much time behind Alex at the moment. I don't know what it is with Alex today, to be honest with you. I don't know if it's car setup. I don't know what it is, whether it's tyre wear or whether it's just not his favourite track. Alex just has not been on the pace today, to be quite honest with you. He really hasn't.
Like I say, his previous interview, it looked pretty miserable, didn't it? Where he said he had pad issues, he didn't like this track. It's sort of proving to be a difficult one for him, as we see Smithy taking advantage of Infamous not really wanting to go for the move on Alex Lilliard and making the move himself. Smithy, though, does have a penalty that he's going to have to deal with at some point, probably at the end of the race. I think it's a 3-second penalty, isn't it? It is indeed. All penalties on the screen at the moment are 3-second penalties. And yeah, so Smithy getting by Infamous. We'll see if he can displace Alex to P5. But yeah, it's a wonder if Alex can get to the end of this race in 5th. I think he'd probably even say that's a good result with the issues he's been having, but certainly not going to be able to challenge those guys at the front. They're just too quick for him.
So Smithy has the DRS behind Alex Lilliard, so he's very much on course. I'm just trying to see how many times he stopped in this. He's actually pitted twice as Smithy, so he could go to the end of the race on the medium compound if he wanted to. So Smithy could be in contention to win this race all of a sudden.
Yeah, his gap to the leaders is 11 seconds. I imagine he'll probably end up about 11 seconds in the lead then, but he will not have the tyre life to get to the end, I'm sure of it. So he might be on for probably finishing a round here. Obviously, he pitted for a front wing on lap 1, so all the guys that pitted for front wings probably got that sort of pit stop almost turned into an advantage when that earlier safety car came out. But yeah, we'll see how Smithy's tyre life's going to be at the end of the race. He could be on for a good result. That 3-second penalty, though, I bet he's wishing he didn't have that, because he would be in a really strong position, because he might be able to defend, but if everyone gets within that 3 seconds, he'll tumble.
Smithy not able to have the pace on the straight at the moment. He's out of DRS, is the AlphaTauri. Alex still has some ERS left to defend when he needs to, but Smithy's not hanging around. Right around the outside. He had a kick of oversteer, didn't he, on the exit of 13, and that compromised his exit. So he stays behind the Alfa Romeo for now. It's crucial that Alfa Romeo get as many points as possible with Alex today, with Josh not around. So as it stands, they would be falling behind Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. But Alex is in now.
Interesting. Yeah, I was about to mention pit stops, because, I mean, you can see here that Waste, who's in 2nd place, he's done 11 laps on the soft and is still keeping up with Fozzie Bear. Surely if I were Fozzie Bear then, I'd be thinking of pulling the undercut on Waste, because Waste has decided not to pull the undercut on him. And at this point of the race, we know now those softs can keep pace for enough time to get to the end of the race from this point. So why wouldn't the medium runners actually try and catch Waste out? Because he's stayed out for too long, I think, now. I think he's stayed out for too long.
And he's got to go on the mediums as well, because he's only been on the softs since the beginning of the race. So Waste has done very well on those soft compound tyres. He won't want to wait out there for too long, because otherwise the tyre, or one of the tyres, will end up delaminating if he stays out there for too long. So he'll want to be coming into the pits very, very soon. Invest is right behind Smithy now for 5th place. Is he going to have enough pace on the back straight, though? That's the only thing. You can see Smithy conserving battery there. Can Infamous get a move right round the outside into turn 12? He's not aggressive enough. I don't understand why he's not being aggressive enough in the corners there. He needs to be braver into that if he wants to get past drivers here.
Yeah, he's just gotta pass him, hasn't he? It's gonna cost him positions at the end of this race, because, like I say, he got overtaken by Smithy and was able to come straight back at him, and so he's clearly quick enough, as I think Waste is into the pits now. But I'd say he's clearly quick enough out there, but he's just not aggressive enough, and it might cost him a really nice position at the end of this race. And he's actually into the pits, so that's how he's going to get past. He'll undercut him. But it's Jason, Waste, and Infamous, the 3 pitters on this lap then. And I wonder if you're going to see a few more. There's a bit of a scrap going on for P9 out there. And Jess is in the wall. And she's broke way too late and hit the pit wall. Oh, that's a virtual safety car as well. So I think the guys that had just pitted were already back out on track. So they didn't get any advantage from that. But that's a bit of a save for Jess, actually, as it happens. Because she's lost that front wing, and the virtual safety car is going to slow the field down, so actually she's not going to lose anywhere near as much as she would have done, but either way, probably not her finest moment, but we'll come out of the pits anyway. I think she gets away with that thanks to the virtual safety car, and the leaders, I don't think the virtual safety car is long enough for them to think about pitting.
No, I think Fozzie should be okay though, because he was far enough ahead of Wace actually, but having said that, I don't know whether Wace had any time gained via the virtual safety car as he was exiting the pit lane on the postcard, but it's going to be nip and tuck actually for when Fozzie does come out from the race lead. He's going to be on the soft compound though, because he's been on both the soft and the medium, so he can go on whatever tyre he likes to for this last stint.
Yep, and we've gone green now, so let's see the pit stops happen. I assume they're probably going to happen pretty quickly. And is Alex Lilliard been jumped there by Infamous and was really trying to get back past him. Obviously, Infamous on another set of the softs going to the end of the race. These should be absolutely rapid as well. As Fozzie Bear in for the last time, all going well. Jimmy Met stays out. Smithy's also into the pits, so I guess didn't think his pace would be any good at the end, so he's also going to bail out and go on to assume more sauce. These guys are all surely pitting for the sauce. There's no reason to go on to anything else unless you literally have to. And Wace is way ahead of Fozzie Bear. And so that is going to be Jason closing as well, potentially. And Bazza too. And so Fozzie's got 1.3 seconds. Like I said, same situation as we saw before. And yeah, we'll see if Fozzie Bear is going to be able to do what Wace couldn't before and make an overtake.
I wouldn't say that Wace is way ahead of Fozzie Bear. I wanted to argue against what you were saying, but I was just going to say Fozzie Bear has closed in. He's going to close in rapidly on the soft.
Matthias is off.
So Matthias off the track somewhere. Don't know if he's had a. Oh, he's got his front wing damaged. Second time in this race he's done that now. So he gets a bit of contact from the Red Bull as well. So it's just going from bad to worse for Matthias, the man who started second in this Grand Prix. Is going to fall out of the points, and that just sums up his day's work, unfortunately. And I wonder if will Jamie actually decide to pit at the moment, because he's got 10 seconds in hand, plus the fact that Wace has a time penalty. So could it be that it's worth a gamble for Jamie to remain out there on the mediums?
No, because he's got to pit a second time, so he has absolutely no choice in it, does he really? He has to, I don't know why he hasn't pitted, unless he's looking for another virtual safety car, but I don't think that's going to happen. And yeah, he's into the pits now. So he's sort of cost himself a potential podium by staying out too long. Although saying that, Jason's nearly stuck it in the wall. He went so wide at 19, but he has got it back on the road. And the reason I was saying Wace was so far ahead is because he's managed to make nearly a 3-second swing. He was 1.5 behind, ended up 1.5 ahead when he came out of the pits. That's how impressive that sort of outlap was. But yeah, you can see Jamie has fallen so far behind now, so any chance of a podium really is gone now for him. Unless Wace's penalty becomes too much. And that's a factor that Fozzie Bear is obviously going to be aware of. He's just got to sit within 3 seconds and he'll win the race. Although Wace is having a dreadful start to the middle sector, and there's definitely going to be DRS for Fozzie now. But
it's another penalty. Yeah,
so,
just adds insult to injury.
Yeah, so it means Fozzie can just sit there and let it happen. That might also let Jamie have a chance of getting a podium back, because he will be on a quicker tyre. Fozzie has got to be smart though. He can't just sort of sit back and do nothing, because if he does, like he's doing now, he's slowing himself down, and that means his teammates, who might still fancy the race victory, will be able to catch up. Mind you, they might have their own sort of team strategy as Infamous gets by Steven. You know, there might be some team strategy going on, and maybe Ferrari have already decided, like, Fozzie Bear's winning the race, you're finishing second. So I hope for their sake they've done that because of this. scrap ends up becoming anything major, then they might regret not passing Waste, but I'm sure he's going to have to pass at some point.
Now, Infamous getting past Stevens, showing some good pace actually, is Infamous, and Buzzer getting a time penalty. He's had a lackluster race. Everyone has pitted at least twice now, except Kia, who's in 15th place. I don't know if he's aware of the rules, but he needs to come in for a second time, otherwise it will result in a disqualification. As Infamous exits the last turn, he's at the moment 1.6 seconds behind Smithy. He doesn't actually need to pass him on the road if he doesn't want to, but I think with the field breathing down his neck, will want to think about getting a move on here. Stephen comes in.
Yeah, Fozzie should really just be overtaking Waste now. He's wasting too much time, because it's going to let the rest of this field start to catch up. And is there an accident? Joer's in the wall, or he's had a spin. I'm not sure he's quite hit the wall. I was going to say that might have brought a safety car, because the safety car at this late stage is disastrous if you are Waste, and I think Fozzie just pass him now. There's no point trying to hold anything up, as we do have another one off. That I'm not sure who that is. Is it Aiden? Yeah, he's lost sometimes, so it is Aiden. And yeah, Fozzie, he had to get past, because I'm sure he probably realised, hold on a minute, I'm losing way too much time here. What if the guys behind start to catch up? And that's the thing Jason's going to have to worry about now next, because there's Waste. You know, he might fall out of the podium positions now. And I mentioned Infamous. He's not quite closing on Smithy quick enough, but Smithy's got a penalty as well. You know, so I suppose it's going to be between Waste, Jason, and Jamie Met for who gets on the podium today. And is Waste going to try and fight back? He is, you know. He's on DRS, he's on ERS, he's trying his best to close in on Fozzie Burst. This is a very sort of odd situation for the Mercedes to be in. Because I guess he has no option but being aggressive, but I feel it's only going to end badly for him.
Yeah, and he's going to be so heated within that helmet as well. You know, with the penalties that have been dished out to him in this race, 6 seconds worth, whereas the Ferraris don't have a penalty at all. They need to make sure they don't get a penalty either, otherwise that could really compromise their race result as well. Just looking at Jamie at the moment, he's currently 6.3 behind Jason at the moment. It's not exactly breathing down on him at a rate of knots, but he's looking comfortable in 4th place. As someone's gone off in sector 3, that'll be Aiden again in the Williams. He's had another race to forget, to be quite honest with you, so he probably needs to go away and practice and learn not to be spinning all the time. So here's Waste approaching Fuzzybert as they come towards turn 12, and is that Aiden going round again?
Oh no, that's a front wing gone this time. Look out for safety cars, potential for front wings. It doesn't always happen. I mean, luckily in this situation it hasn't. Again, be aware of the pit entry. Yes, that will probably be retiring from the race now, wouldn't it? As Alex Lilliard loses another spot.
Alex losing another position to Ols now, and given that Alex has got a time penalty anyway, he'll probably fall behind him, to be honest with you. But this has been a race to forget for Alfa Romeo, unfortunately. As Waste looks to get back in touch with Fuzzy, but he keeps running wide. If he keeps carrying on doing that, he'll end up with another penalty.
Oh, Stephen so nearly crashing as he passes Jess. Because those guys are 3 wide in the fight for the last point on track. Because anything like this could still bring safety cars out at this stage of the race. They've got to be so careful, these guys. Look at them. They've sent themselves off to Narnia. And
oh dear, that's naughty. That is very naughty, that from Stephen.
That is.
That is reckless driving.
He's slowing down as well. Oh, I don't like what he's doing here. I'm not a fan of this.
It's reckless driving. It's totally unacceptable, that from Stephen. He's already been on 4 penalty points, 2 more, and he's on a race ban. And that race could end up being Imola as well. And it looks like someone else has gone for a spin. Don't tell me that was Infamous. I saw a yellow flag there. I couldn't quite tell what that was, so I may well be wrong. But we just see. I think that may be Aiden actually. He's just going down a lap. So yeah,
could be.
Yeah, he's still trotting along. Actually, is Aiden. But I'm actually surprised he didn't just choose to retire now, because he's not going to get now that he's down a lap. As Alex Elliott tussling out with Buzzer over 8th position as they exit the hairpin of turn 11 together. Buzzer's through, and Alex down to 9th place now.
Yeah, I'm wondering, actually, the reason Aiden's still in the race, he might try and get fastest lap point, of course. I forget about that for outside the top 10. But I wonder if Alex Lilliard's just race is just going downhill now, isn't it? Those mediums are really not working for him, and the penalty as well means he's not going to make anything up at the end. I don't think Demon's going to get close enough to him to do anything, but P9 puts him out of the championship. Yeah, it also means Alfa Romeo need a major result in Imola, so be looking out for that one next time out in 2 weeks' time. Stephen and Jess are still going for it. I'm really hoping there's going to be no more shenanigans there, but Jess is ahead for the moment. Their chances of finishing 12th are out the window now. Ah, they've hit each other again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again.
And again, there, look. No, just needs to make sure she doesn't do it back at him, because otherwise she'll end up in trouble as well, which she doesn't do. So I think Stephen will be under investigation. It wouldn't be at all surprised if this ends up being reported as well, because the way Stephen moved across on Jess a lap ago was not on at all, quite frankly. So Jess just runs wide on the exit of the last turn. So that's that one over for now, I think. Although Stephen, is it? Oh dear me. Yeah, this is getting out of hand now, and Stephen is most certainly going to be going to the stewards after this one.
Yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised if this is the last you see of Stephen this season, because you'll almost certainly get the points to get him a race ban, won't you, for this?
Yeah, you can see how he's moving across there, look. He's moving across way off the racing line, and he's almost trying to preempt that Jess is going to be alongside and then just turn in on her.
Which is smart, isn't it? And the reason we're watching this so intently is because it's still a potential for safety cars. If these two hit each other too hard, it could be a serious problem.
Yeah, this is not the genuine pace we should be seeing from Stephen either, so this is blatantly him trying to cut across on Jess.
They've lost 20 seconds in 3 laps.
Yeah, he's almost trying to cut across on there, look. Yeah, he's doing it on purpose, he's backing off on purpose. He's trying to play games with Jess here, but for the wrong reasons. So, yeah, this is something for later, isn't it? As we watch these two. Now, this is the incident where so I think Stephen wasn't going to get that move done now, so Jess is through at last, and hopefully won't see any more of that for the remainder of the race.
Yeah, free to go. I think we'll just leave these two for what they do. Maybe that's just how they race. I suppose we don't watch the back markers as much, perhaps that's just how they do it, but I do feel it's a bit strong from Stephen, but yeah. Back in the fight for the podium position then, because Wace 3.8 seconds ahead of Jason, so he needs another, how much does he need then? He needs 2.2 seconds to try and secure second. Third though does look now like it's probably there for him, so that's something, because I mean he spun off at the early stage of the race, got the penalty. He could easily have won the race, frankly, but if he can still at least get a podium out of it, I suppose he'll take that.
Yeah, and Stephen's just been penalised again. He's got past Jess and then just let Jess back through again, so I don't know if he's just doing it on purpose so that he can just battle with someone on circuit, but this is not really good driving standards, is it?
Yeah, I suppose if those two are happy fighting each other, then I suppose there's nothing much we can do about it. We might have just picked a very bad moment to watch them, because they're clearly fighting away, aren't they? And they've given up on the point a long time ago, but if they say something, if they don't, they don't. Not really our decision what they do, but entertaining, if you look at it that way at least. Jason is still losing more time, by the way, because Jimmy Met is catching him. So Wace here with 1.5 laps to go. He's also catching Fozzie Bear. Are these soft compound tyres starting to sort of fail on these guys? And is Wace possibly in a position to try and nick second place back on the penalty? Jason, by the way, will still get fastest lap point for Ferrari in the top 10, just while we're thinking about that. And Matthias will be getting it for outside the top 10, just if anyone's interested in those points as well. But everyone's sort of being decided at the end, because Jason, if he got second and fastest lap, it would mean both Ferrari drivers in a really strong position going into Imola. But it was third and fastest lap, obviously not as good. But I will see how this all sort of pans out.
So Jason, 4.4 seconds behind Wace at the moment. We'll make that 4.5. So Wace needs to pull out another 1.5 seconds in the final lap of this race. He's a second behind Fuzzy Bear at the moment. So he may get DRS actually. It would come to Wace's aid going into the last lap. He'll be on better tyres at this stage now than Fozziber will be.
That's what I'm saying. These mediums are starting to really come into their own. And in the final lap of this race, no DRS, but possibly on the back straight, Wace could get there. I think it would take a lot still to make the time up, but I'm sure Wace is thinking about it. I'm sure Jason's thinking about it as well. 1.5 seconds, can he do it? I would still be surprised, because dirty air is going to make a difference in these S's. That's probably why Wace couldn't actually pass earlier in the race. And you can see he's not going to get DRS. So, yeah, perhaps he won't be able to do it, but he should still finish 3rd place. But it was just worth thinking that Ferrari might lose 3 points on it, but I don't think they will, unless, like I say, something major happens now.
So we're on the last lap of this race. Fozziber away in the lead. This is the result he needed after the shenanigans in Austria. He had a tough time at Silverstone, and he most certainly had a tough time at Spa as well. And this victory is going to take him a step closer to the title. He'll take the lead of the championship because of Josh Wilkinson's absence for tonight. So he's got 5 more corners to get through. After this one he gets through here, there is a Haas of Kia who should remain out of the way. Just look at see, he's only pitted once actually in this race as an Austria, so unfortunately it'll result in a disqualification for him, I'm afraid. But that won't matter here because Fozziber is going to come through the last corner now. And
do you know what? Sorry, I'll let you go.
Yeah, Fozziber wins the US Grand Prix in the Prospect tier in One Hub Racing. He takes the checkered flag. He leads the World Championship. Jason crosses the line 2nd with the penalties applied, so Wace is down to 3rd. 4th will be Jamie Mayer ahead of Smithy, who should keep hold of 5th place. Infamous, what a drive from him today. 6th fastest. He finishes 5th actually because of Smithy's time penalty. So he beats him to 5th there by 15 thousandths of a second. Smithy 6th, All 7th, Bazza 8th, and it should be Alex 9th. He'll be very disappointed with that one. He's out of the title race now as well. Matthias 10th. Demon will move up to 10th actually because of Matthias' time penalty, so he'll be 10th. Matthias 11th, and Joel will take the last point out of all the top 12 in 12th position. The driver of the fast lap, Jason, inside the top 10, and outside the top 10, it'll be Matthias.
Yeah, so Ferrari then 1-2. Wace did well to get the 3rd place in the end. Kia did make a 2nd stop. I was going to mention it before Fozzie crossed the line, but didn't quite have the time. And Stephen and Jess are still going first, so I guess you can watch them guys in the last sector. But yeah, Kia was obviously going a lap down, so he was still on lap 27. And so he was pitting for the last lap, so I think the stewards might just let him off with that one. Because, I mean, it also says on the graphic he's made 2 stops. He exited the pits at the end of the day on his 28th and final lap. Yes, he had to check the flag, but I think he'll be allowed to get away with that one. Hopefully, anyway, for his sake.
Yeah. Well, Stephen is letting Jess go through. He knows he's going to finish behind her anyway, so these two go over the line now. But it's victory for Fozziber in Austin, and he retakes the championship lead. That's his 2nd win of the season, and it's been quite a convincing one as well for him.
Yeah, an infamous then drive of the day on the game. We'll get to our choices in a moment, but there is the podium. Ferrari with a huge result for both championships. Josh Wilkins not watching this one with a smile on his face, I'd imagine, because it gives him a massive task in Imola. But what a chance that would be for Ferrari to take the championship in Imola. They're certainly setting themselves up in the best way possible.
So the Ferrari crew celebrates on the podium with Fozziber the winner, Jason 2nd, and getting the fast up as well. It's a perfect day for Ferrari. So Fozziber wins, Jason 2nd, and getting the fastest start. Wace is 3rd, ahead of Jamie in 4th. Infamous in a brilliant 5th place. Smithy 6th, All 7th, Buzzer 8th, Alex in a disappointing 9th, and Demon rounding out the top 10. Matthias 11th, and Yoa picking up the last point in 12th. Jess was 13th, ahead of Stephen. Kia and Aiden were 15th and 16th, and the last of the finishers. Storm and Indecisive were the only drivers that did not finish the race. The driver outside the top 10 that got fastest start was Matthias. So the championship, as it is, Josh Wilkins' lead has been taken away. So it's Fozziber ahead on 111 points. Josh Wilkinson 2nd on 109, and Jason in 3rd on 100. So it's a 3-way battle for the title, Owen, going into the last round of the season at Imola in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic, isn't it? And, yeah, we will be very much looking forward to that one. But for today, let's quickly mention our drivers of the day, because personally, I've mentioned him earlier on, you'd mentioned him as well. My one would be Infamous, just for his general pace. I know he wasn't great for the overtaking, but I think to go from 15th to 5th was a very impressive result. So I'd say, first of all, congratulations on the result. And from 15th, did you really think you'd have the pace to be finishing top 5?
That's a good choice there. Perhaps that would have been my choice had it not been for you choosing him. In terms of my driver of the day, I'm going to give it to Fozzie Bear, because coming from a difficult position to win the race from, 5th on the grid, to get himself up to the race lead. I know we had the safety car, but I think even without that, I think he would have controlled the race from where he was before the safety car was deployed. So very well done to Fozzie Bear. He is my driver of the day. And my question to him was, after a tough qualifying session, did you feel everything went your way in the race? And if so, why? That would be my question. I'll let you take the opportunity, Owen, to mention our sponsors and partners for the last time today.
Yes, thank you very much, Tom. Yes, our sponsors, of course, being Next Level Racing, who sponsor the league by providing NLR Direct Drive stand. To our driver of the season, which is of course a new award, 3M Sim Racing. They sponsor the league by providing the pair of their sim racing gloves to the driver with the most combined poles and fastest laps. And our partners, Vespertine, who support our championship prizes, and ERT, who partner the ERT Going Gets Tough award.
Very nice, and it's very. Thank you to all the sponsors as well for helping out during the course of the season. I mean, we've still got one more round to go at Imola, but what our sponsors and partners do for us is absolutely fantastic. So good on to them, and we can't wait to do it all again in 2 weeks' time to see who'll be crowned champion. One thing I will mention is the Constructors' Championship, because Alfa Romeo only came away with 4 points from that race, I believe, because Alex Elliott finished 9th, if my maths is correct, if that's the number of points you score for finishing there. Either way, it was not a good day for Alfa Romeo. They've lost the lead to Ferrari in the Constructors. Ferrari getting maximum points, 18 for Jason and 20 for Fozzie Bear. So Ferrari's lead, I believe now, is something like, 22 points at least going into the last round. So it's going to be a very, very tough ask for Alfa Romeo to fight back in that one. So Josh Wilkins will be hoping for a good time at Imola. If he wins the race at Imola, then that's the championship wrapped up, no matter what happens. Because if him and Fozzie Bear tie on points, Josh will win it on countback. So that's something to take into consideration. Thank you to everyone that's been watching. Make sure you do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And thank you to everyone that's got involved in the live chat as well. I'm Tom Cairns, he's Owen Wyatt, and we'll speak to you again soon when One Hub Racing returns.